Yo, y'all, we're back with another CMAS show. Got my two guests, Mike Robillard, the doc in the house, and Tim Gordon, author of The Case for Patriarchy. And so, you guys might notice I'm not in my office. I'm standing in front of a window here. That's why I got the shades on. A little bit bright, but the lighting is so good. It makes my skin look fresh. Traveling. So I'm in a hotel right now. It's one of my friends slash fans slash employees, a guy that I work very closely with for the past year or so. Got married, and it was pretty cool to watch his journey from, he was a Franciscan friar for a few years. He got out the friary, and I started living the fornication lifestyle, right off the bat. And he was cohabitating with a woman, and things didn't work out so well. It's almost like God was slapping him the whole way through. And he repented, turned around, and went about developing himself as a man, learning bioenergetics, working with me on developing a men's coaching program. We're doing some great work together. And along the way, he found an amazing girl, a great chick, ticks off all the boxes in every way. And so they're getting married tomorrow. I'm out here to help them celebrate. I've been out here all week, sort of doing I don't know if you call it a bachelor party. We really haven't been partying, but bachelor get together at a Airbnb here in New York. And as it typically does, the conversation led to, hey fellas, let's give our mutual friend, me and all the guys, are about six of us, some marriage advice. First time marriage advice. Young couples advice. What to do, how to be, some tips on getting the most out of your young beautiful marriage. And so the way that so I figured today what we'll do is do some tips. So we were just spitting tips. We were just like fireworks, like a machine gun, just shooting them at them. Boom, take this, take this, take this, take that. And I thought this would be a great show. So what we're gonna do today is I got a couple that I shared with him, but I also want to hear from my guests what their thoughts are on tips or tricks or paradigms or ideas or just any advice that you would give to a man who's getting ready to get married, maybe thinking about getting married, or more specifically, uh, is newly married. So, Tim, thanks for joining us, brother.
Great to see you, brother.
Yeah, man. I figure, I got a bunch I've been thinking about, but let me throw the ball to you, and I'll throw it to Mike, and then I'll answer third. Will gave us a couple. He gave us four, so maybe I'll have Mike. Do you know what Will's four are? Will gave us
I
four.
don't know. I don't. Yeah.
Cool, no problem. I'll do that. So we'll go Tim, Mike, and then I'll do Will's part, and then I'll give my part. And so we'll get through 12 today. That's the goal here, to get through 12 tips for newly married men. All right, enough intro chat from old Uncle Yo. Tim, take it over, bro. What's your first tip for newly married men?
First, firstly, congratulations to your friend. The most important thing in a marriage is independence. Independence, whereupon husband and his bride, patriarch and his wife, grow into one flesh. You see that this is a biological process, a psychological process, and it's a cultural process. So I would say, first off, I know a lot of people out there be uncomfortable in the marriage by you ask your bride, "Would you marry me?" And you two say, "Okay, yeah, yeah." First person you might tell to be semi-traditional would be the bride's father. Maybe you either take him out one on one and tell him this is what's happening, or you go out one on two and you do the speaking, but you can bring your uh, your fiance with you and tell the bride's father. But I know a lot of people think it's traditional, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I'm going to explain the theme in a second. I think it's traditional to anyone else, and I'm thinking, no, this is
Tim, I don't know if
It's
you're
really
breaking up just for me. It looks like
isn't the
some of the guys are mentioning
Catholic
that it's breaking up a little
tradition
bit.
for world in history. Can you can you hear, or is it just video?
Yeah, it's just breaking up a lot, and then Mike just bounced out. Am I coming in clear for you guys? I was just trying to figure out, pick up on where the internet's getting screwed up. Let me know in the chat, in the comments, guys. Am I coming in clear, or is it just, or both of us coming in bad, or is just Tim? There was like a bit of a break up there, Tim. Let us know, fellas, so that way we
You're
can.
perfect.
Okay, for some reason, yeah,
You're
you're coming in.
perfectly clear.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're coming in clearer now. You want to pick up where you left off?
Yeah, sure. I'm not sure how much I lost, but uh, I was just
Yeah.
saying. Point number one: if it's not too late, ask your future bride directly. Tell her father respectfully. Make him the first person you tell. Because point in fact, if you ask and you're denied from the bride, that's what will shut you down. If you ask and are denied permission from from her father, rather, then yeah, you're probably going to go do what you're going to do anyway. To get married in the Roman Catholic Church, you don't need the consent of the parents. You need the consent of the bride, and the bride needs you to have asked. So it only really takes two people plus Jesus, the third. Um, the theme here is independence, that you don't want to be dependent on crutches. And so my second tip would be, if you can, to move to a new town at some point. Not everyone does this, but even if it's just to go get a master's degree or go try living in another country for a year or two, or go, it's what we did, and I kind of combined those first two motives, studying for another graduate degree in another country. We went to Rome. It was beautiful. It wasn't our very first year, but it was our third, and we came to
Nice.
depend on each other and learned how to fight more than we ever had before. So that it turns out really, really important that the combination of the takeaway between these first 2 points is be reliant only on one another. It's like a body with an autoimmune system. You are now one new flesh, and you're getting used to it over the first 3 years of marriage. And you want to test out your own immune system. You don't want to be dependent on out of body artificial antibiotics, like a counselor, one of your sets of parents or both of your sets of parents. That becomes family feud. So thirdly, is just learning how to fight. There's some really specific tricks and hacks that you can use when you're learning how to fight. Actually, on my channel, Steph and I have worked up a workbook for how to have fights as a married couple. But the main takeaway from that is to learn how to fight properly. You need to realize that every disagreement is it's not something that should be sublimated, and it should. Let's say this is why I was getting frustrated. I tend to get frustrated when there's loud noises in the background, and she'll say her part, and you end up coming closer together from those talks. People know this has happened accidentally. It's worked out well before, but in marriage, you have to really, really, really be intentional about making sure that fights wind up positively, even if they start out negatively.
Hey Tim, let me
So
pause you for
those
a
three.
second.
It's all about independence and yeah.
You just gave us. I just want to make sure. I want to write them down here so we can see them. So you gave us three just now. Be independent. What was the second one? Are you there?
Two independent, permissional. Yeah,
Man, I'm losing you again.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with the Wi-Fi today, but okay. Number one was be independent. I just want to write them down. What was number two?
So number two was move somewhere independently.
Okay, cool.
If you can, even for just a year.
Move away. I'll say that's cool.
Yeah, and number three, yeah, and number three, fight constructively. Takes
That's
a long time to learn, but start learning.
I wonder if I can make these a list. Probably have to make them independent of each other. Number one. Let's see. We're just messing around here, Tim. It's kind of a weird day. We lost two of our guests. We got bad Wi-Fi. I'm in a hotel. Number
Yeah,
two is move away. I like that. Yeah, I think we can come up with 25 of these today. I know I got a bunch. Cool. Be independent. Move away. And number three was
I
what?
have some more. Yeah,
How about you do three? I'll do three, and we'll go
fight
back and
or
forth.
argue. Let's do it. Argue constructively.
I like that. Constructive arguments. Let's write them all down here. Where is it? Arguments. Cool. All right. I like it. Cool. So be independent. I like that. Just to kind of reiterate that real quick. From what I understand, I hear you saying is essentially you don't want to be resting on mommy and daddy, or some counselor, or like the focus of authority being outside of the two of you. You got to be independent. Moving away helps that happen, right? So you don't want to like get married and then also continue living, maybe living in your parents' house. You want to move to a different town. Want to do something different, like you're suggesting. Actually, I'm going to move you to my left, Michael. There we go. Cool. And constructive arguments. Briefly describe that one more time. What are constructive arguments, and how do we make sure that our arguments are constructive?
Well, that's kind of the trick. And people are going to say it's hack. That's the title of a hack. It takes a little bit of time, but the main takeaway is when you're disagreeing, don't fight it. Don't fight disagreeing. Give into it and say, okay,
I'm going to put these by you. Got it. Mike, are you coming in clear?
Yeah,
Can you hear
Roger.
me?
I can hear you guys now.
Yeah, I think Tim's coming in a little
yep.
wacky. You seem pretty clear. Let's get some tips there. What are three tips?
Why we're not getting annoyed anymore. You stop being annoyed once you actually start talking about it. First married and you don't want to fight, and it rises as long as you're both being frustrated but not rest or in tone. This is pissing me off. I don't like it. The second you're like, okay, pause. We're gonna have to just discuss this. Then all of a sudden you'll note you plateau your frustration and it starts dropping. So learn to fight constructively by addressing things.
I like it. Cool. Mike, what say you, brother?
So yeah, as the guy, not married yet, really from what I've seen vicariously, ways in which it's fallen apart or gone awry. This is very generic, but I think it's the old C.S. Lewis quote about put first things first, and you get both first and second things. Put second things first, and you lose both first and second things. So I think folks need to remember that putting God in Christ first, that's the ultimate goal.
First things
And that
first.
marriage, yeah, and that marriage and family are obviously of a very second, and that just it should be the thing that
You breaking up
keeps
also.
the relationship and like I said, pretty Roger.
Yeah,
Second of
right.
all, I would say I've seen in my parish, there's an active men's group, there's an active women's group, and I think that's a great thing. So I'd say just another generic piece of advice is like you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like there's a community of elders, there's a community of supporters that you can turn to when things are difficult or you're trying to find advice for a particular problem, or you're looking to get an idea about a particular issue. So I would say, yeah, turn to the men and women who are married in your parish as a community and as like a resource to work through certain things. Uh, you don't have to you don't have to let this modern society be the thing that you're basing your like reference points of wisdom off of. So good. And if that isn't your parish, then find a healthy parish that does have uh, an active men's group, where the elder men are like helping to bring up and counsel the younger men. And I guess thirdly, I would say the most successful marriages I've seen, that they had kids quickly, right? They weren't perfectionists about trying to wait for some perfect opportunity um, in the the secular situation, that economically or financially, that they're waiting and waiting, and then it's suboptimal. So I think the best, healthiest, like flourishing marriages I've seen have been ones that have had kids quickly and have had them in multitudes, and that there's no perfect window for that type of time, or that type of thing.
Got it. So putting first things first, that means
And
put
if
God first in your marriage. Turn to the community for help. Don't think you got to figure it out by yourself. Kids early, have lots of kids and have them early, huh?
Yeah, that's Tucker Carlson also can influence that to a lot of his people that have interviewed him. So if you don't trust me, then trust Tucker on that.
Cool. I appreciate that. Cool. Here's mine. I'm gonna go with number seven. I'll do seven, eight. Since we just did three in a row, I'll do three in a row, and then we'll wrap up with Will's. So number one. So I wanted to take cues from the other married men around the table when we were having this conversation, right? And I was just asking the guys, "Hey, what's your tips for Arnold? What's your tip for Arnold?" And really, it turned out that only two out of three of us were married. Two out of four of us were married, and it was his brother. And I asked him, I said, "What is your tip for your brother?" Well, marry a nice girl. He was like a quiet, soft-spoken guy, and that's all he said. He said, "Marry a nice girl." I was like, "What do you mean, marry a nice girl? That's kind of a vague term." He said, "No, no, no." He says, "A woman that doesn't argue with you, a woman that's not trying to compete with you, a woman who's not trying to fight with you." And you could tell this is like a laid back dude. And he has no, I could tell also he has no like patience for problems in his life. And he said the number one best thing that he did was marry a woman that he doesn't argue with. I know Tim was talking about, having, constructive arguments. But I had to agree with this guy also. I was like, no arguments is better than constructive arguments. And my wife and I too, same thing. I had to agree with him fully. I was like, Colleen, I do not argue. I understand, like people say, it's you should get things off your chest and you should talk things out, but like win the game before the game by choosing a partner or a wife who's not gonna fight with you the whole way through, right? Imagine like you trying to pick teams for basketball 2-on-2, right? You're not gonna choose somebody who's at odds with you, who wants to always take the ball, a ball hog, or someone just doesn't know how to pass or doesn't know how to like synergize with you. If you're arguing, you're fighting. I've seen that. I remember playing pickup basketball with my friends, and right away, the other guys are about to lose when they're arguing. It's like, look, they're arguing. They can't figure out what they want to do together. So meeting a girl or starting with the raw material of a woman that is not contentious, that does not fight with you, does not give you problems. I say 90% of the reason why, of course, is all the grace of God, but beyond that, that my wife and I stay together is she does not fight with me. If there's something she disagrees with me about, she'll just stay quiet. If there's something that she thinks I shouldn't do or should do, she'll tell me. But then she walks away after that and lets me decide. If I took her advice, great. If I didn't take her advice, that's fine too. So that's, I would say that was my tip number one. That was what and it was so funny because when we were having this conversation around the table, there were two other guys that weren't married. And one of the married, so actually I was the one that said nice. I was like, yeah, man, she's a nice girl. His girl is a nice girl. And the girl that my friend is marrying, she's another nice girl. I'm going to talk about her in another moment as a part of one of my tips. But one of the guys who wasn't married, he didn't get it. And he was like, I don't like that word nice. He was like, nice is such a bad word. I was like, well, then you never had a nice woman. I don't need to give her all kinds of thesaurus type words to describe what I think she is. If a woman is nice, that means that she's void of all nasty vices. Nice is the opposite of vice. But you don't have to put her up on a big pedestal and say, you're the most extraordinarily gorgeous, beautiful princess that I've ever seen in my life. No, a nice girl doesn't even need you to say that. A nice girl is satisfied with just being called nice. And so I say, marry a nice girl. That's your best bet. So that's number. I'm gonna write that
Can we
one.
discuss that for a sec?
Let's do it.
Yo, Elliot. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, people. I'm afraid people will mischaracterize patriarchy and stuff. Of course, yeah, marry a nice girl. I agree with. Who could disagree? But you still.
Can't
Well,
hear you.
even if it's a girl, nice girl.
Maybe
Nope,
maybe
you can't
pour.
hear.
Yeah, he just broke up, like just disappeared for like 3 seconds. Maybe turn off the camera. Maybe your audio will come in cleaner.
Yeah, let me try that. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you right now. I wanted to hear what you had to say there though, because it sounded like a good counterpoint.
I think it's important in theory. Is this better?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hopefully, I can continue hearing you.
Anger if you can't hear me and I'll stop. I'll watch you.
Cool.
Um, the depth girls, like if there are two human beings living together, it's not the big bratty, buy me this or treat me like a princess scream fest. But even if it's a girl that traditionally is non-bossy, that submits to the authority of the husband, provided that you have two fallen, concupiscent human beings, there will be breaches which cause arguments, right? And even if you married the perfect girl is not going to be okay with times when the husband hurts her feelings. So that's what I mean by causes an argument. Anytime one party has hurt feelings, that's as simple as being human. So I could see going through this whole thing and being like, one of the 12 points is marry a nice girl, sure. But are these guys saying that if like Joe Schmo marries a nice girl, he will never have arguments in the sense that a lot of the people out there are using the term, and I wouldn't want that to be how they characterize. They would say, well, this is a false project or something. It's like you should not be having the kind of arguments that stem from a wife not submitting to her husband's patriarchy. Fully agree. But we're given advice for the first 3 years anyway, so you might have a few of those as you're establishing it. It's a change of life.
100%.
But yeah, even after that, all I was saying is even 18 years into marriage, sometimes your wife will hurt your feelings or you'll hurt your wife's feelings. You have to go, or she has to go, hey, I didn't make a big deal back there in public, but I'm just telling you, like, you're my best friend and this hurt my feelings. And sometimes the other person says, oh, you're right, I see it right away, I'm sorry. But if they don't say it right away, then there will be an impasse. It might not be yelling like a brat, but there will be an impasse until the person sees how husband or wife hurt the other person's feelings. So I just don't want people to characterize this that way.
No, I agree with you fully, and I think constructive arguments and conversations are very helpful. you'll just have a lot less of them with a
Yeah,
nice
yeah,
girl. I don't have to keep
100%.
correcting you. We keep having problems. So tip for me, tip number 3, but it's going to be number 7 here, is always be attractive. I see this happening even with guys that, like, before they get married, all of a sudden they're gaining a bunch of weight. And I know we tend to, in the red pill world and whatnot, they want to blame women for everything. And the first thing that you'll hear, typically, because women get fatter than we do, and of course they make babies and stuff. But it's always, oh, she got fat. But I see a lot of dudes, the minute they get comfortable in a relationship, and then they're getting married, and it's like downhill from there. They're busy eating, because they're dating or whatever. They're going out and eating out more often because you're entertaining a woman, eating more desserts, laying around more. I think what happens a lot of times when a guy is obsessed with, I won't say obsessed with a woman, but like when you're really investing your attention in a woman, because a man has single focus attention, we're a little less spread. We're more like we dive into what we really are interested in. I see a lot of guys forget themselves completely. They'll be with this girl. They're thinking about her all the time. They're on the phone with her all the time. And my friend here now has been spending the past month planning for a wedding, and I could see him getting a little out of shape. I was like, listen, man, you got. Funny thing about women, well, maybe it's like this for all of us, but one thing for sure is they like knowing that their husband is desirable to other men. I guess men are the same way with women too, but their husband is desirable to other women, right? And so if your woman recognizes that no other woman even turns her head or glances at you or is somewhat like at least a little tickled by your presence, she's going to start wondering if she's got the best deal. And she's going to start wondering, why is nobody else attracted to this guy? I got this thing that nobody wants. And it's sort of a subconscious thing. They're not actively walking around thinking this consciously, but it's sort of a subconscious thing. And even if you aren't, Don Juan or like, rip like who's a good bodybuilder? I don't know. Dorian Yates. You can see how old I am, right? If you're not ripped and you're not, maybe you're not everybody's gifted with incredible good looks and charisma, but do you try? Do you take care of yourself? Do you try to wear decent clothing? Do you try to stay in shape? Do you take care of your health because it's going to be reflected in the way you look? Are you an attractive man? And I think even when we are in a relationship, like you should still know how to flirt, particularly with your wife. I'm not talking about getting out there and flirting with the waitress, but you got to know how to be like funny, witty, sexy. Even if I've been married to my wife. We've been together for 30 years, and I'll still come up with these, like witty jokes, witty little sexual jokes that kind of like make her blush, like make her attractive to you. Also, what's been really helpful, or I've noticed this, just something that I naturally do, but I notice this, and it turns up the heat in my wife's desire and admiration for me, which is a part of being attractive, I think, is also being affectionate with your wife in public, right? So it's kind of it's odd to me sometimes when I see couples that I know they've been together or they're married, they have children, usually older couples, but the man does not even put his hand on his wife. I'm constantly treating my wife like she's a girl I'm trying to take home, if you know what I mean. She belongs in my home. She makes my home.
Like never ever, if you're sitting down on your couch or on someone else's couch at a dinner party or something, you're gonna play some board games. Just never sit away from her. This builds on your point. Like you should always sit right next to each other.
Absolutely. She should always sit right next to you. That's another thing. It was funny. We had my mother-in-law's. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. But one step further, it was funny. I had this experience the other day. So we were at my mother-in-law's funeral, and her brothers were there. She had like 6 brothers, and one of her brothers he's kind of like a playboy. He's had like multiple wives, and and I'm not saying he's a good guy, but like he understands women, and he was like pretty based, but like a playboy, old playboy. And Colleen Colleen was already sitting down at the table talking to them, and I went and I sat next to one of her other uncles because we were in the middle of another conversation before. And once he and I stopped talking, I looked over at the table at Colleen. All I had to do, and I didn't. This was all unconscious. All I had to do was I looked at her, she looked at me, and I just tapped the chair next to me. I just tapped the chair next to me, and she got up, came and sat right next to me, and put her hands on my lap. And her uncle was like, "Whoa, wow." I'm like, what's going on? He's like, "You don't see that very often." I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "She came and sat down next to you because you beckoned her." It's like most women will not do that. They're going to get a whole lot of he needs to come sit next to me. If he want me, he needs to come over here. Where she thinks she's the prize. And if a woman thinks she's the prize, she don't think that you're better than her. The attraction goes away. I made a video called this the other day too. She needs to think that you're better than her. You can't even be equal. Equal is unattractive, and I'm not saying it based on like our perspective. I'm talking about the woman themselves. They're not attracted to men that they're equal to. As crazy as that may
That's
sound,
true.
they're not interested in being equal to you. They
Yeah,
want you to tell them.
the natural test is the green line test. Not only they want a man that they look up to, and you don't look up to someone if you're equal to them, right? Or in psychological state. And yeah, they should be the ones to come to you. And also, there's like a bodily ergonomics to become the one sit by the husband too. It's like it's the green line test. Whether you're sitting on a posing photo, they should be kind of conforming their body to all your cracks and crevices. Sounds weird, but like they should fit into you. You're the closer thing to an armchair. They're going to be resting their weight on you. And it's like on the couch, the man should get comfortable first. You should never be sitting across, even if you're playing a game, unless you're on opposite teams or something. And
Right.
they will literally conform their bodily space to yours. You're exactly right.
Wow.
It's important. It's important. Yeah.
Along that same lines is like what she wears. I know I'm kind of like going off on a tangent. I have one more here before we circle back, but your wife should dress to please you. That may be strange to a lot of people, but like my wife doesn't go out with me without putting on a fashion show. One of her favorite things to do is to put on multiple. She'll get multiple dresses, and she'll come out and do one at a time. Even though I might already know which one I like, she wants to come out and demonstrate that she's dressing for me. So she is definitely conforming to your taste, conforming to your body, conforming to your request and to your word. Right? When I tapped that chair and she came
Yeah.
over, it was that was appropriate, but it was different. Cool. So we're doing pretty good here.
Yeah.
I got one left uh, on my list. We got independent, Tim, move away, constructive argument, put first things first, put God first in your relationship. I will attest to that. It's as strange as my relationship with the Lord has been over these years. That has always been a focal point in our relationship, putting God first. Turn to community for help. If you got parents, that's good. If not, maybe clergy. Have kids early. I can attest to that. Marry a nice girl. No, someone who's not argumentative. I would say that the antithesis to being nice is argumentative. Not an argumentative girl. Always be attractive, and that kind of like led us down the rabbit hole of attractive means what to be attracted to. That means you got to be like a magnet that she wants to conform to. Attractive doesn't just mean sexy and desirable. It means conformity, to attract to something. Boom, I want to be whatever that thing is. And then number nine, and then we got three here from Will. And what I think I'll do with Will's is I'll spit it out, and then we'll do a little talk on what we think Will is suggesting. So my I'm torn between two. I gave him two pieces of advice, but I'm gonna spit out one of them, and then I'm gonna write down number four. So I'm gonna give you guys a bonus one. Here's the bonus one before I give you my last one. The bonus one: go slow. Go slow, go slow. And I know this was our conversation about the wedding night, and they both remain chaste through their courtship. She's a virgin, and of course, it's been probably many years for him. And we were just having jokes, talking about waiting for the wedding night. I couldn't help it but just tell him, babe, brother, whatever you do, take your time. Do not rush it. I think there's a tendency in our culture, especially with the proliferate amount of pornography, guys want to, and just our nature as men, we try to rush to the end, try to get to the end as quick as possible. Take your time. But number nine, and then we'll go around the horn. Take her for a ride. Take her for a ride. This is one of the things that I said to my wife before we even got married. We must have been in high school, and I said, "Hey, babe, if you're gonna be with me, it's gonna be like a roller coaster. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. I'm a adventurous guy, and I think a part of what makes her life so fascinating, so fun, and she stays on her toes, is that I'm always taking her for a ride. Whether it's a new way of life, it's a new adventure we're going to go on, something we're going to go do, or some challenging new business venture I'm going on, or just the thrill. Sometimes it doesn't feel like a thrill, but the thrill of, doing risky things. Your woman loves to see you do risky things, especially for her. A woman who will tell you, "Oh, don't start that business, or don't make that investment, or don't do that thing because I'm afraid," because she's afraid you might lose. That's a woman. That's a man. A man who listens to her is a man who is a slave to his woman's fears. Even if my wife is afraid a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, when I'm about to do something, my wife is nervous and she clutches her pearls and she grabs my arm, but she never says, "Don't do it." She always says, "I'm nervous, I'm scared, but I know you can do it." That's the kind of guy you got to be. You got to take her on
Yeah,
adventures.
and she's attracted to it afterwards. Women love natural risk take. They're doxes, right? Women, when before they're trained up, they want they want a man. They want the stuff that comes from a man giving them what they want, but they're not attracted to the man that would actually do that. This is a similar paradox with risk. Women sometimes will say, "Oh, I'm afraid of the risk. Are you really going to do this?" And if you say yeah, and you put your head down and do it, they're really attracted to you afterwards. So that means there are two attractive nuisances as between women and men. Good women and good men. I'm not talking about brats. The two attractive nuisances are giving in to things they want, like getting them stuff, or maybe spending too much, or obliging them, over obliging them. Head down and do what you're going to do because we need to do X, or B, we need to not avoid this risk. They will be more attracted to you later. It's a very, very palpable thing. They're really attracted to risk takers, like you said.
That's right. I'm trying to get this last one moved over. Yeah. So, and you can't listen to what a woman says. You gotta look at what she does. Because if I listened to my wife, I would take no risks. And I'm not like trying to throw her under the bus. That's her nature. That's the way a woman is supposed to think. I don't want a woman that's a risk taker. I want a woman who's conservative, who will sometimes, her prudence may even slow me down in an instant where I need to be slowed down, but she would never lord it over me if I made the wrong decision, because she likes the high of seeing dangerous things unfold. Man, I remember playing high school and college football, and throwing my body around, banging my head into people, and she would she was a cheerleader, but I would see like videos of her, or like I remember like my siblings would tease her because she would be like cringing the whole time, like "Ooh, ow, ouch," and she's like picking her fingernails because the thrill of watching me do dangerous things agitates something in a woman, and that agitation is like neutral. Because on one hand, it's scary, but on the other hand, it makes her juicy. It makes them like, "Oh man, he's so attractive," even though she won't imagine, even though she won't say it. So, and that goes across the
So
board
it's
with a lot of
important in
things that
marriage.
women say.
Look
Mhm.
for
Say that again.
Yeah, it's tough in your daily life as a 40-year-old man. This is why guys go out seeking the risk. It's like because it's attractive to women, and it's not as natural to a 40-year-old to find risk in your daily life as to a 20-year-old. If you can, find
Yeah.
it.
You know, it's so funny. This stuff is so hardwired into us. I remember being like 14, 15 years old, and I was such a knucklehead. I remember whenever there was like girls
Yeah.
that I was attracted to, that I wanted to impress, I would do something really dangerous right in front of them. Always. I remember I had a bike, and I would like try to do a bike flip. I remember this one girl. I was like right around there. I was like, I would never attempt this because she was there. I was like, I gotta do it. I gotta do it. And I did it. I did whatever, some kind of bike flip. I remember throwing myself off of staircases, like just dumb stuff, just to show that like I'm not afraid. Like, yeah, I could have broken my arm, but I'm just gonna jump out of this tree and land on my land flat on my back just to show you I'm not afraid. And I remember this girl. It was a different girl. It was a long time ago. She was so impressed that I was like
I used to.
a dummy.
Yeah, when I was young, I would trip like all the way, like stupid, implausible, incredible trips, all the way down like a theater stair into a girl, and like try to spill her popcorn and get her number.
That's pretty risky. That's some courageous stuff you got to do there. So I think women
It worked.
appreciate that.
'Cause- yeah,
I bet it does work. I bet like you and I saying this right now, being that we're one or two generations past Snapchat. Like a lot of you guys who like you're struggling. All I hear is like Gen Z struggling with women. We're struggling with women. We're struggling with women. But you know that's because a lot of your interactions with women are completely fake, and you don't get the opportunity to impress her. Like I know feminism has told us, don't try to impress women. They're not impressed. But if you can actually get around women and do like what comes natural to us, out as a man, far more than the guys who are trying to figure out what the best Snapchat is to send.
yeah. Feminism isn't bullshit because it tells men to impress women, and masculinism obviously tells women to impress men. That's absolutely true. Feminism is bullshit because it tells men to impress women by acting like submissive little bitches, right? By acting like women. But men impress women by acting like men. Be like we're naturally hardwired to go to war, fly planes, tightrope walk, lift heavy things, take risks, get play in football games, and the girl just thinks because they're attracted to the otherness of men because they're not lesbians, they think I would never do that. That's so cool that if I'm with him, that I am adjacent to or connected to doing something I would never do. Just like you said, Elliot, sagaciously. Yeah, like I don't want to risk taking woman, like a gambling woman. That's like a feminist character in a new movie, like a gambler pro woman that, busts down doors. That's bullshit. We're not attracted to that. Women nest and men go out and hunt. We brave the elements and the big blue out there. That's how we're attracted to each other. Now we're attracted
Right.
to people that have similar morals. So like attracts like that way. But like is attracted to its opposite when it comes to physicality, male and female.
Yeah, on the same note, women men are not attracted to how much money you make. Men are not attracted to the kind of car you drive. I know the world has tried to convince women that like status symbols for men are appropriate and work for men. I don't care how much money a woman makes. A woman makes, $1 million a year. I'm not interested in that's not gonna make me want to make her my wife. And no matter how much she wants to spend it on me. That's not attractive. I don't care what kind of fast car or expensive bag she has. That, in fact, those are turnoffs because maybe they'll say that I'm not comfortable in my sexuality when I say that. But once again, I don't want a woman that's ahead of me, right? Does that make me a weak man? I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe it makes me a weak man, but I'm not interested in trying to play catch up or having a woman that that is making more money than me, that is doing bigger things than me. Maybe because I'm a weak man. Maybe I'll chalk it up as that. But I would much rather I'm much more attracted to a woman that's quiet, that's submissive, that smiles a lot, that is kind, that is seeking to please, right? So these are all much better things. Mike, we got you back. Another one of those weird days, huh? Where we're all in and out. So, Mike, let's do this since you're back. Let's start up. We got three more, and we got Will's. And so these are completely from Will, independent of you and I. Will couldn't make it. So I'm going to spit these out, and then maybe we'll go around the horn, starting with Mike. I'll go. Tim, you go. Just giving thumbs up or thumbs down on what we think Will means here. Ready for that?
Yeah.
T- Tip number 10, which is number one for Will, is his tip is don't call your wife my better half. What does he mean by that? Why do you think he's saying that, Mike?
Oh yeah, yeah, you see that all the time. It's just this the presupposition that yeah, you're beneath her and that you're ennobled by her existence, and that you guys aren't. Yeah, that you're somehow in a lower status. I don't know where that phrase came from, but yeah, it's an awful phrase.
Yeah, and you hear
It's
guys
self-deprecating,
saying
right?
that.
Yeah.
I totally see guys
Yeah.
saying it. And you know what? I think about the guys that I see doing, and they're usually boomer types, a little bit older. I think, my generation, our generation, probably a little bit more awake. But it's always these overweight, self deprecating, masochistic type men with really hot wives. And I watched it play out with. I'm thinking of two men in particular that were this particular archetype. It's like a particular type. I think they really actually believe it themselves that their wife is their better half.
Mm.
Later on, the wife left because I think they start to realize, hey, if this guy doesn't even believe he's better than me, I can't believe that I'm better than him. And nobody else is looking at us thinking, wow, she's got a great catch. She has somebody who's a lesser half than her. And so that sort of paradigm begins to seep in and it becomes a self fulfilling prophecy. What say you, Tim?
Yeah, just like you said, women are attracted looking up to a man. The, the roost, you can't look up to a man and simultaneously be called my better half every day. And again, something that Will and I have found in our new return matchmaking program that's staggering. Every single girl we've interviewed is like, "Look, I'm a short girl, so I can get with a relatively short man, but I need him to have 2 or 3 inches on me. I must look up to him, and at his face. He must be the ranking half of our one flesh. That's height is more important to them than even muscles. It's been very surprising to me. Men don't think that way, but there's some real like I did in the talking something through, and she's like literally I couldn't be with someone that I looked across at. I couldn't be with someone that I looked down at. I literally have to be with someone that I look up to because I'm the follower and you're the leader. If I'm supposed to be the follower, how do I not look up to them? And if it's a guy that can't be looked up to, then it's not going to work. Similarly, never ever ever call your wife. I'm going to go ask boss. I'm going to go ask my boss.
The
I said
boss.
this on a show. The boss. I'm going to go check with the boss. We got a neighbor here who is our friend who will drive by and he'll be like, "Hey, Steph," I was talking to Steph. This happened 2 weeks ago. Um, I'll ask you because you're the boss. Do you want to go to the park later? And Steph's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna go ask my boss, which is Tim." And they'll get in like joking arguments because he calls his wife that, and so guys
Yeah.
are threatened when a wife is like, "No, not every woman is confused on this point. I'm not boss. Tim's boss." Very very important. Very very important. It's not
Yeah.
a joke, even though they dress it up as one.
Yeah, it's a very cringy thing to see when a man has latent feminist tendencies. There's a lot of them out there too. I'm at this wedding too, and I'm meeting a bunch of guys. I don't get out very much, and then I end up talking to guys like you online. Uh, But a lot of these guys, yeah, like they're just spitting out things like, and you know the ones that are giving marriage advice that aren't married, because they're saying,
Yeah.
the typical tropes, right? Like communication is important, and always. Literally had one guy, while we were doing this, I forget exactly how he said it, but like basically, she's always right. Like put her on a pedestal. She is your better half. I think he was actually saying that. I kept my mouth shut though. I was like, he's not married, so only take advice from married guys. At least the ones that marriage is working. So we
Well,
got
take advice from 1% of it. Yeah.
yeah, right. Isn't it? Don't take too much advice from these guys. So number two, take advice from us. We're the guys here. So Will's number two, or which is number 11 for us, is put your wife ahead of your kids. That's a huge and that's a strange one, I think, for our postmodern mindset. I think a lot of men take the woman's position on this, where I think it's a little bit normal for a woman to be hyper focused on the children, but for a man to agree with that position and put the children ahead of his wife, I still think it's wrong for a woman to do so. But putting each other first before the children may be odd to some people. Tim, what say you?
Absolutely. And even though women, like, I was noting the difference between just our conversations, mine and my wives, when we go on a one-on-one date, which is another important thing. You need to go on one-on-one dates, versus when we go into a restaurant with our 7 kids. And I probably sound stupid for being surprised. I guess I am stupid. I'm surprised at how much the conversation suffer when there are 7 kids there, even though Steph's amazing, because she's a good mom. She's always looking after the kid, and she's an uncommonly good conversationalist. Especially for a woman, but for anyone. So I would say, yeah, you have to set the conditions for the possibility of focusing on each other. I wouldn't say women are off the hook. I think women, you should be the number one priority. Steph tells people, my husband's my number one priority, kids a second. In our feminist society, they've inverted that. The feminists that actually spawned children and got married, they'll always say kids number one, husband number two. It should be your
Right.
spouse is your number one. They're going to be there after the kids grow up and leave. Kids are the telos of your marriage. They're the point of it. But that doesn't mean that they are the ergon of it, or the intelligible principle. The intelligible principle is your one fleshness with each other. So absolutely, you put each other as number one.
So we got Mike back. Will, if you have any comments on what Will says? Put your wife before the children. Why would that be the case? Children are so vulnerable and they need us. Why would we put an adult before the children?
Yeah, I guess same point Tim just made. Yeah, you're a single flesh, you're a single unit. So without that team being optimized, then yeah, the kids are not going to be attended to the best.
Cool. Let's rock with number 12. We got our last one. This is the last one from Will. Sort of related to number one, which was from Tim. So it's pretty cool. We come full circle here. So he suggests don't let your mum talk badly about your wife. Why not? That's my mom. She should be able to do whatever she wants. Why can't my mummy talk bad about my wife? Tim, what are your thoughts about that? Did your mom ever talk bad about your wife, and what would you do?
No, my mom and dad were very, very independent of their parents. And so they always gave us this advice. They're like, be independent of us.
Nice.
My mom and my dad and I, we disagree about plenty, but they were really good models is to be independent of when you're young marriage. And for my parents are kind of separate from me anyway, so that they're like, this is good, you go do your thing, and we will never run Steph down to you. I think all people that are overly close with their parents have a built-in Oedipal complex with their moms, and women have a built-in electric complex with their dads, and that's why I said be independent. You don't need the girl's dad's permission to marry her. It's just not what the Roman Catholic Church requires. So don't ask. It's a could be asked for something that if the answer is no, you're going to go and do anyway, right? So my future father-in-law's permission to marry Stab, well, hey, Pat, I want to go first. Gus. But if I asked you and you told me no anyway, I'm a very confident man. I'm going to go do it. As long as Steph says yes, I'm going to do it. So, yeah, the mother-in-law becomes a problem with the mommy's boy husbands, and the father-in-law becomes a problem with daddy's girl wives. And you want to cut that shit out early. It's a cancer. It's a cancer that people think is a good thing. A desideratum. It's just not.
Yeah.
You got to be in you two versus the world.
Right. And the first thing that comes to my mind here as you're saying that is that if there are things that need to be said about your potential spouse, I think they need to be said before getting married. I know this is kind of like, we're giving advice to newly married guys, but I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the parents, right? If I'm dealing with, he's talking about moms, but I'm a dad. So, if I'm dealing with my daughter and a young man that I don't think is a good pick, I'm going to say something. I'm going to say something early, but once the knot is tied and once they're married, it's totally up to them. That at that point, I would keep my mouth shut. But I think saying stuff before is pretty important. Just not, once your child has made that choice. I think it's like my parents have kept their mouth shut. Mike, what say you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's I guess it's an offshoot of honor thy mother and father, as well as honoring the sacrament of marriage. And Will's just pointing out that those things need to be balanced, and you should keep that in mind and balancing them in a way that's harmonious, in accord with what you and Tim just said.
Nice. Cool. So there we have it, fellas. 12. Before I run down them one more time and do a sign off. Any last words or bonus advice or anything you want to add to that, Tim?
Yeah, I would just say there's a trend on this list where the things that are superficial appear to be are most, like if you've been in a marriage for 5 or 10 years and your things are losing the spice, the more superficial 3 or 4 will have more effect more quickly. Like if your wife doesn't dress how Steph has a chapter in a book called "Wear What He Likes, Do What He Likes." That's the duty of a wife.
Right.
If she starts doing this, it is disproportionately effective. The consequence of her starting this one seemingly superficial hack is outsized. It's a huge effect. Or if you do something like just start working out as a man, what that does for her is will have an outsized effect. So sometimes the deeper tips we're giving that we know are more profound take a little longer to take root. So in life where the superficial is sort of more profound.
Yeah. The basics, the simple things. %. Mike, anything to add before we wrap up?
No, not really. I like this list though. I think this came together really well, and it seems like sound advice that I've seen, in successful marriages across the generations. So I think this is a good list.
Cool. So just to run down real quick before we wrap up. Number 1, be independent. As a couple, you become one flesh, move away. Is number 2, move away from the parents. So being independent, moving away, these are great things to build that ecology, that new organism of your marriage. in a container. Constructive arguments, right? Not just beating each other up for the sake of arguing, but do it with a purpose. Put first things first, Mike said. Put God first in your relationship. Definitely agree with that. Turn to your community for help. It's great when you have parents. If you don't have parents, it's great to have a community. Other people around, maybe elders who've raised children. You want to pick their brains, watch how they do it. I would say that the greatest blessing that I've ever had was to come from a strong family, and therefore I know what it looks like. Number 6, have kids early. Don't wait. I met with a couple yesterday who is at this wedding. They're almost 30. They're 29 and 28, and they're having a hard time making babies. I think the years of fertility are probably dwindling as our nutrition does, and so don't wait. Do it early. Marry a nice girl. That was my first one, and I'll add to marrying a nice girl. There was so much there. Of course, her dressing the way you want her to dress, but a girl that smiles a lot. That's one thing I noticed also with the bride that is attending the wedding that I'm at right now. Also, the brother-in-law I was talking about, and my wife. Three things these three women have in common: they smile a lot. A nice woman, a nice girl smiles a lot. My wife's default is smile, and this girl I met yesterday, who's marrying my friend, like she can't help it. She's just all grins, and so being around somebody that smiles just makes you smile. Always be attractive to your girl, right? Don't let yourself get out of pocket, looking fat and sloppy. Take her for a ride. Women want to be entertained, as crazy as that may sound, right? We have different desires and different wants, and a want for a woman is to be taken for an adventure, taken on a ride with her husband. This is why they all dream of cowboys, right? And cowboys always dream of princesses, right? She wants to ride that horse. She wants you to gallop her off into the sunset. Number 10, be her better half. Don't ever say she's my better half. Put your wife before the children. That union between you and your wife comes first. The children orbit around that. Don't let your mom or your parents talk bad about her. So that's it. That's all. Quick one today. I'm going to enjoy this traditional Catholic marriage wedding. I'm going to get to go watch. And we'll be back next week with an awesome show for you guys. We'll probably be on Mike's channel. And we'll take it from there. That's it. That's all. Love you guys. Any parting words, or is it time to say cut?
God bless the wedding you're at, and God bless the bride and the groom.
Yeah, same here. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Will, who couldn't make it, but he sent in his advice. All right, fellas. Until next time, enjoy your weekend. See you then. Done.